So, you're a single man and you want to meet women. Where do you start? Dating sites on the internet? Going to bars? Nightclubs? Stopping random women in the street? Aren't those the ways that men meet women? Yeah, in the movies, on television, in fiction land. I'm not saying that those places can't work, just that for most men, in most cases, they just don't work. Unless you're smart about it. Take dating websites. The harsh reality is that your profile statistics are all that women have to go on. So naturally they're going to go for the top tier men. This isn't because they're all greedy gold diggers or entitled princesses. This is just nature. They can't judge you as a person until they've met you. It's just like getting a job. The employer starts with your CV. Unless your resume impresses them, they're just going to ignore you. And it's the same way with women on dating websites. Unless you're a top 5% winner or a complete liar, women are just going to ignore you. You can always fake your profile and lie about your accomplishments and lie about your statistics, and you will get attention. But sooner or later, the truth's going to catch up with you and it will backfire. And you'll end up back where you started, probably with your confidence knocked and your self-respect even lower than it was when you started. So for most men, dating sites are not the way forward. Unless you're posting in a country that's poorer than your own. Then you're naturally going to stand out because you're richer than all the other men on that site. But in this video, I'm assuming you want to meet women from your own country. So I'd say for most men, dating sites are just not the way forward. So what about bars? Are they a good place to meet women? Women go to bars to meet men, right? They dress up to look as good as they can to attract men. They drink alcohol. That's a good start, isn't it? Well, no. A bar is a shallow surface environment that only gives you a very small window to make your first impression. So unless you're very good looking, or you're very well dressed, or you have excellent social skills, you're going to struggle. In fact, you're going to struggle even if you have those advantages, because approaching women cold is more like a sales job, and most men just struggle with that anyway. So I'd say for most men, bars are not the way forward. And nightclubs are even worse because you can't even talk to a woman without shouting in her ear or trying to impress her with your fancy clothes or your dancing skills. And that, for most men, I just don't think is a realistic option. Bars and nightclubs, especially on traditional nights out like Fridays and Saturdays, are basically just big, crowded rooms full of people drinking alcohol, trying to look good, and maybe having a good time with groups of friends that they already know. But for single men hoping to meet women, I think they're atrocious places. They're an expensive, inefficient waste of time and money. Unless you take this approach. Instead of doing the Friday or Saturday night thing where you're going in cold to a room full of strangers, I would suggest pick just one bar or nightclub and go there every night of the week. Go there early when it's quiet. Don't go there with the intention to meet women. Go there with the intention just to meet people and talk, as though it's a place where you actually work. You could hang around the bar, get to know the staff, just be chatty and friendly, talk with everyone you meet. And as long as you keep going back to the same place, over time, you'll gradually get to know people there. You'll generate a higher social profile, and you'll be amazed how easy it is to get to know and talk with lots of women. And if you don't like bars or nightclubs, you can do this. This method is just as effective in coffee shops and restaurants. So what about meeting women in other public places like the shopping centre or the supermarket or out on the street? Well, you'll be going in cold and you'll have to be very confident and at ease with yourself if that's going to work. Otherwise, you're just going to embarrass yourself and at best embarrass the women you're trying to meet. And at worst, completely creep them out and scare them away. I'm not saying this is a bad method for meeting women. If you're a very confident person, a very confident winner, then I'd say it's the most direct, ballsy and effective method for meeting women. But I think for most men, they're just going to experience embarrassment, rejection, and further loss of confidence. One of, if not the most common way that men meet women is through their job. So, why not get a job that puts you in communication with lots of women? You could either get a job in a female-dominated industry or a job that puts you in communication with lots of female customers. I once had a job in a photo developing company where, aside from one other man, I was literally the only man working in a whole company of women. This is a great way to get to know, understand, and get very comfortable with talking to women. Another time I went on an office training course where it was literally only me and about 40 other women. Makes it very, very easy. Another time I worked in a bar, serving drinks and collecting glasses, and that was a great fun way to meet lots of women. So choosing the right job really does help you meet lots of women. One piece of advice that used to get passed around, and maybe still does, is this whole concept of having a wingman. You take a guy with you when you're approaching women, and he makes you look good in social circumstances and backs you up. But this still involves cold approaching, and I think it takes a high level of social skill to be good at, and I think it's something that most men would really struggle with. A much better idea than finding a wingman, in my opinion, would be to find a ladies' man. A man who's already very, very good at talking to women, very good at approaching, very good at knowing all the things to say with confidence, and you become his wingman. That way the pressure's off you. All you have to do is just be there to back him up, and just by associating with a practiced ladies' man, you're going to meet more women, and you're going to end up talking to them, even if they only want to talk to you about the ladies' man. And if you're worried about the whole friend zone problem, don't be, because that's a much easier problem to solve, and one I will deal with in another video. Parties. Are they a good way to meet women? Well, it depends on the party, doesn't it? If it's 90 or 100% dudes, then no, it's not a good way at all. It's completely useless. But that's just one party on its own. If you go to regular parties, even where the men do outnumber the women, eventually it only takes one or two guys to bring their girlfriends along, and then the proportions start to balance out. Over time, those women tell their friends, and they start coming to the parties, and then it can become a viable means of meeting women. But let's be honest, how often do you get invited to a party? Parties don't seem to happen that often. They usually happen around a birthday or Christmas or some kind of special occasion. So parties are not very reliable, unless you're the host. If you host a party regularly, maybe only once a month, better still once a week, keep inviting people, this can be a very, very good way to meet women. Now, at first the parties may only be small, so you've got a better chance if you can expand the size of the party, and you might not be able to do that where you live. Your house may not be very big, and hosting big parties might be difficult. But you can do the same thing. You can invite people to parties at a bar, in a pub, or better still, in my opinion, a restaurant. And if you do this regularly, your social group can grow, and this can be a very effective way to meet new women. Another method I've heard about for meeting women, although I haven't personally tried it, I have heard many good things said about it, is this idea of speed dating. A bunch of single men and women get together in a large, room, and they sit opposite a table, and they try to get to know each other in as short a time space as possible before, say, moving on to a new table. And this gives them a chance to meet lots of people very, very quickly. I've been told this is a fun exercise, but how effective it is for dating, I really couldn't say. Okay, this is perhaps a very obvious method for meeting women, but for the sake of being comprehensive, and because it may not be obvious to everyone, I've decided to include it here. And it's the idea of joining a specific interest club or going to a night school to meet women with similar interests to yourself. I'd certainly recommend this method for meeting women, though not necessarily for dating. In my experience, similar interests have little or no bearing on whether or not men and women are attracted to one another. But it is a good starting point for meeting, so it's worth mentioning here. I think one of the best ways to meet women is by being in a band. And I'm not talking about a bunch of stoners or dreamers that just hang around a garage or a basement or a living room. I'm talking about actually getting out there and performing, playing in bars or nightclubs, or even out on the street, playing a musical instrument, or better still, being a lead singer. Even being in a crap band, you're going to get female attention because you're standing out from the crowd and you're proving that you're different, that you've got balls and maybe even talent. Now you might be thinking, yeah, that's a great idea if you can play a musical instrument, if you can sing. But what if you're just a regular guy? What if you don't have those talents? Then you can do what I did. I recorded and produced music for bands. I became a band manager. I organised gigs. I drove the bands back and forth from the practice studios and the venues. Yeah, at first it's just like a job, but when the band starts to take off, you're right in the middle of it, and believe me, it's a great way to meet lots of women. Not necessarily high quality women, but women nonetheless. It's a great method and I highly recommend it. A very similar method to being in a band that's a guaranteed way to meet lots of women is by becoming a DJ, or at least becoming friends with one. These guys meet lots of women. It's a great way to stand out from the crowd, and it gives women a reason to approach you, even if they're just asking you to play a certain track or song. The DJs I've known couldn't stay single even if they wanted to. They get so much female attention. In fact, they usually end up with the opposite problem, where they meet so many women, it's hard to maintain a relationship with their girlfriend or even a marriage. That's how powerful the DJ route is. Finally, I'm going to end with a method for meeting women that's perfect for you, even if you're an introvert and don't even like leaving the house. It's very slow to begin with, but it's a guaranteed method for meeting women in the long term. And that's to start a YouTube channel in a woman's niche. Not only will you stand out from the crowd, with there being little or no competition from men, you will end up communicating with lots of women. You might need to do a bit of research, and this might seem a bit calculating, and in all honesty I can't recommend it, not having done it myself. But I have seen, for example, women running YouTube channels in men's niches, giving them dating advice, and these women have huge numbers of followers of men. So it stands to reason that a man could do the same in a woman's niche and gain a lot of women followers. And this would be a very effective method for getting into communication with lots of women. Well, these are the methods I know for meeting women. I'm sure there are many others I don't know about, and I'd like to hear about them in the comments. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.